everyone, Amanda here from Create with Scrimping Mummy. So I'm here with another class for the hybrid journal, and I'm using Nostalgic Christmas, which is my own paper collection, which I did design all by myself. I'll leave a link in the description box below if you're interested in it, but you can totally follow along and use absolutely anything. Okay, so I've finished my cover. So I always like to reflect on what I've done and think if there's anything that I would change, that I'll tell you before you go make yours. So the first thing is I've used cardstock to wrap it. I do prefer the fabric tape. I'll quickly show you what the fabric tape is. So this is the fabric tape, and I was inspired to try this by Kathy Orter, who's Paper Phenomenon, and she uses it nearly all of the time. It just makes your covers more flexible. Okay, this is a little bit stiff. That's because my cardstock is very thick cardstock. Okay, so I maybe, to resolve that next time, if I'm using this cardstock, I maybe need a bit more of a gap in those gussets. Remember, we used a 1/8 of an inch. If you've got super thick cardstock that's, say, over 250 GSM, you might need a little bit more of a gap. That's why these are not folding flat. It is totally because there's not enough space in there and it's pulling the cardstock too tight. Okay, with the fabric tape, you just don't get it. It just doesn't happen because it's so thin. It's wafer thin and it's flexible. It's fantastic. So next time we make one, we'll use the fabric tape. Right, so the other thing in hindsight that I would change, if you haven't stuck this down yet, this centerpiece, just go back and take maybe an 1/8 of an inch off. Okay, just off one end, off the height, because I've just thought on, really this should be shorter than my pages, ever so slightly, but I'm going to make it work because I've angled these here. So those are the two things that in a hindsight I would change. I wouldn't change anything else. So what I've done is I have decorated the inside parts, and I should have told you, I think I said go ahead and add your eyelets. You shouldn't be adding your eyelets until you've done your pattern paper. Okay, I didn't realise when I was saying that until I watched it back, and I'm like, no, they need to put the paper on first. Anyway, not to worry. So I've decorated. Now these are all 1/2 inch. That's 1.5 inch. So these I've cut to 3/8 of an inch, which is just under. Okay, normally when I cut patterned paper, I cut it 1/4 of an inch shorter on the width and 1/4 of an inch shorter on the height. But if you do that in a very small space, you're gonna end up with a hair of a piece of paper, which is pointless and it looks weird. So we just go just over. Okay, and what else have I done? Oh yes, I've decorated all the cover. So I've decorated all of the cover. It is absolutely lovely. The only thing I've used that's not in the collection is a tiny bit of gold foiled mirror card, or whatever people call it. Okay, so when you're using your digital papers, okay, I typically do them landscape. So you might be thinking, well, you know, if you cut your landscape digitals, it's not going to be tall enough to fit on the album. So what you do is you do a little bit of paper piecing. So you just get creative. So this is one piece around here. Okay, I measured it at 4.5 inches by 8 1/4, wrapped it around, and then I cut this piece, and you can home in on whichever image you like in the digitals. That's the beauty of it. So I was going to use that one, so I'd started cutting that, and as you can see, when you trim the borders off, it doesn't quite reach. So what I did here was I trimmed. This image had this on as well. I trimmed that off, pieced a small piece of the same paper, and then I've trimmed that off and I've stuck it back over. Okay, so it's like patchwork. You've just got to get creative. Even people who make mini albums and use 12 by 12 papers get creative. Okay, so you can do absolutely anything with your digital papers. You've just got to think and you've got to plan it. So I've used this one, and then I've used one of the fussy cuts, which I have backed on black cardstock and then fussy cut around. One of the words from the collection, which I've backed on some of this foiled card, And I've left this and I've just glued it on 2 sides. So you can absolutely, totally and utterly tuck cute little embellishments in there like so. How lovely does that look? So I might back these on card and then put some glossy accents on the numbers. And how cool. Okay, so that's the cover. The cover's done. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to show you how to do your eyelet placement. And then we're going to get on with some of the interactive parts. I think we'll do what's going to go on the covers today and do the pages tomorrow, okay? Because I just need to do a little bit of tweaking on one of my elements. So I'm not quite ready to share it yet. So here, right, so we're going to fold these flaps out of the way. And this central part here measures 1.5. Okay, we've centralised it. You should have an even 1/2 inch each side. So this is pretty central. Okay, so hopefully you're not going to end up with a dog's dinner. Okay, so I'm going to use a pencil. And I'm going to, because I want my signature, so I'm not going for the centre of the spine. We're going for the centre of this component. Okay, really important, because if you go for the centre of the spine, say from the outside, the entire spine, and start measuring, it's not going to be right. So we're measuring on this central component here, which measures 1.5 inches. So what we're going to do is we're going to go 1/4 inch up from the outer edge of the cover. Am I doing 1/4 inch? No, I'm doing 1/2 inch. I beg your pardon. 1/2 inch. I'm going to make myself a mark with my pencil. Okay, and I'll do the same at this side. 1/2 inch from the outer edge of the cover. Okay. And then you want to measure from that score line there where this flappy bit is. You want to measure 1/2 inch in. So find where you've measured that, done that pencil mark, and then measure 1/2 inch in, okay, and make a mark. And then from this score line in this way, we're doing 1/2 inch, and we're lining it up with that pencil mark that we measured 1/2 inch up. Okay, so 1/2 inch in, 1/2 inch up, make a mark. We're doing the same at the other side. Okay, so I'm finding that pencil mark and I'm going 1/2 inch in from one side, making a mark, and then I'm going to go 1/2 inch in from the other side up to that score line, and I'm going to make a mark there, and that is where I'm going to punch. So I have one of these, best tool ever, because it will punch through anything. They're not the cheapest of tools, but once you've bought one, as long as you look after it, it should last you forever and a lifetime. Okay, and they are good because they will, you know, it's easier than bashing eyelets with a hammer, and this will punch through. We've got chipboard and we've got 1, 2, 3 layers of cardstock and 2 layers of paper. Okay, and it will go, if I can get it through, it will. Okay. Let me just see where my pencil mark is. Hold on a minute. So where's my pencil marks there? It's only just going through. I could use my big bite, but I can't be bothered with it. And punch. Okay, if you're struggling... Has that scratched my paper? I've scratched my paper now. That's annoying. Right, we'll get the big one out. That's because I've got quite thick chipboard. Okay. I'll have to come up with an idea to... I might be able to unravel it. I'm going to use the big bite because the big bite's got a bigger gap. Where am I? No. That one? Yes. Okie doke. So let me find where my... I do struggle to line up the big bite. That's the only downside to it. Let me have a look. Where am I? There's my pencil mark. There we go. Around to the other side. Find my first pencil mark. And that's about right. Blimey. Right, next one. Just got to line it up carefully as I don't want to make a mess of it. There we go. There we go. You wouldn't be able to do that with a standard hole punch. You'd be there, you'd never get it through. But that's because I use heavyweight chipboard. Okay. So that's the thickness of what it's punching out. It's about 1/4 of an inch thick. I'm just a little bit miffed about this bit here. I'm going to see if I can uncrease it where it's got creased and maybe glue it back down. Oh, how annoying is that? It's alright on that side, it's just there. I'll think of something. So then I'm going to use gold eyelets on this one because I just think it's a bit more Christmassy. Maybe once I've got my eyelets in, you won't notice that that's gotten a little bit mashed up with my crocodile. Not to worry. Right, so let's set this eyelet. Am I going to struggle with this one? No. Has it set it? Yep. Okay, so I don't know why it was sticking. Maybe I didn't have it open fully. Which was my own fault. Oh, that gap there is smaller than that gap there. Who knows? Okay. Good squeeze. A good squeeze. Yeah. So I get 4mm wide eyelets, okay, and I just get them from wherever they are cheap. Now different ones will squash, for want of a better technical term, squash better than others. If you want completely foolproof, you will go for the We Are Memory Keepers branded ones, okay, which is the same brand as this, but they are awful expensive, okay. And when I say expensive, I mean expensive. I'm not exaggerating. So I get mine from, I've got them from Amazon. I've got them from AliExpress. I've gotten them all over. Okay. And the odd ones that just don't squash very well, I just end up redoing them. I'm not terribly bothered. Okay. Right. So I've just got that little bit there. It's really bugging me. Don't know what to do about that. I'll figure it out. Probably nobody else will notice it, but you know when you know it's there. Okay, so elastic. So we're going to do the Midori style, and I want it so that it's not down the spine. So we are going to go, we're getting the end of our elastic. Okay, we're going to go, how am I doing it now? Let me think. Up the bottom. So I'm going in through the, and into the inside, up the middle, out the top, okay, and then I'm going across. So I'm not going down the spine on the outside, I'm going across. My hand-eye coordination's shocking. I'd never win a pool tournament. Okay, and then I can just cut some of this credit off. Okay, and then this one also wants to go into the inside bit. Okay, and then it will join there, and I will tie it in a knot. Now, I always just tie it in a knot and then tie it in a bow until my journal's finished. I don't commit, because you might want to loosen it, you might want to tighten it. It will depend on whatever content you end up putting in. Okay, so I will just tie it in a bow. Once I've finished my journal and I'm committing, I'll tie it in a double knot. Some people do add a dab of glue over the top. I've never felt it necessary. I've never felt it necessary because I always tie it in a bow and leave it anyway. So if it was to come undone, you could just refasten it. Okay, so I'm not gluing it. All right, that's bugging me. Can you tell it's bothering me? Look. Right, okay, so let's get ahead. I'll get my supplies, we'll get serious, I'll stop moaning about my scratched bit of paper, and we're going to do the internal parts here. Alright, I'll be back soon. Okay, so I'm back with the first part. So what I'm going to do, if you take the time to watch these videos and listen carefully, I'm not just going to teach you how to make my journal, okay, my unique hybrid journal. I'm going to also tell you how I do it, how I work things out, so that you can then take that on board, the techniques and the kind of things that I do, and you could totally design your own. So if you pay attention, you're going to learn a lot. Okay, basic stuff, but you're going to learn a lot. Right, so I'm wanting to make a pocket here. Okay, so how do I work that measurement out? Well, what I do is I'll measure the width of my cover. Now my cover measures 6 inches. Yours might be different. And then, because I don't want it to protrude past here and look ugly, I'll get in the way there, I'm going to knock 1/8 of an inch off of that measurement, which brings me down to 5 7/8. So whatever yours measures, knock off 1/8. Okay, then you want to add an inch, because you need 1/2 inch on each side for your flaps to glue down. So I've knocked off 1/8 of an inch. I've decided that my width needs to be 5 7/8. I'm going to add an inch on that, so that's 6 7/8. So that's what width I need my cardstock to be. Then I decide how tall I want it, and I'll put my ruler on then I'll think, what am I going to put in it? Am I going to put little tiny tags in? If I'm going to put a little tiny tag in it, I don't need a pocket that goes up to there. I could do a shallow pocket. Well, I'm telling myself that this pocket here is going to hold an insert. We're going to make an insert for it. So I want it to be quite tall. So what did I go for? So I decided that I wanted it to be, that's a bit big, I think. Hold on, what did I say? I must have decided that I wanted it to be 5 inches tall. Okay, because I'm going to put quite a tall insert in there. So because I've decided I want it to be 5 inches tall, I've cut my paper to 5 1/2, because I need 1/2 inch on the bottom. All right, so then I need to do my scoring. So on 2 short sides and 1 long side, I need 1/2 inch. So I've put it in on the 6 7/8 inch length. Okay, we're scoring along it. So when I say we're scoring along, then your measurement goes facing up. So 1/2 inch, okay. And then because I'm too lazy to work out 1/2 inch from 5 7/8, I just turn my paper around and go 1/2 inch. Okay. Then I'm going to turn it on the short side, which is along the 5 1/2 inch side, and I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. Okay. I highly advise, if you don't have a scoreboard, to get one. It's one of those tools where if you get the right kind of scoreboard, it'll last you forever. And when you're looking for a scoreboard, you want to make sure, see how mine's got like a lip there and a lip there. That's what you're looking for when you're buying a scoreboard. Doesn't matter what brand it is. It's useful if it's got inches and centimetres. Mine's just in inches. But you really need this butt, I call it a butt bar, because you butt things up against it there and there, because then when you're scoring, your paper's infirm and it's not going to move. I see scoreboards that have not got any of these lips, and I think, how do you keep your paper straight? It would drive me bananas. Okay, so whatever brand you're buying, that's what you're looking for. And if you buy one, you're only buying it once, because they don't, it's not something that's going to break. Right, so what I'm going to do is am I using tape? I'm going to use tape. So I want, when these flaps are folded over, this is going to attach. Okay, so when you score, you've got a dented part, and then when you turn it over, you'll see you've got a bump. So I'm going to put tape on the front on the dented part, and I'm going to do it before I mite my corners so that I've got it edge to edge, and I'm going closest to the cut edge. Okay, closer to the cut edge than I am to the score mark. Okay, so this is a 1/2 inch score, and my tape is 3/8 of an inch, so it just fits inside nicely, leaving a bit of a gap. Okay, and I take my time when I'm putting my tape down. I put it down a little bit at a time and then, you know, go like that. I need something to rip my tape. There we go. So I don't put my tape down, okay, and then stretch it like that. Stretch it. Yeah, I put it down and I pat it down gently, because if you stretch it and pull it, you're pulling your card. Okay, and you're pulling it taut, and you don't want that. Right, so now I'm going to cut across the score lines. I always go on the back because I feel like I can see the lines better on the back. And where those score lines intersect, you need to cut across the middle of the X at an angle, like that. And you just do this every time you make a pocket. All right. Then you want to fold and burnish. And burnish it like it's somebody you don't like. Okay, we're not naming names, but we've all got somebody we're not keen on. Okay. Right. So, pocket, bit boring. How can we add a bit of interest to it? Well, I could use my envelope punch board. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to, with my flaps down, I'm going to put my in my punch board, and I'm going to go up to 1.5. Okay, 1.5. And I'm going to punch. Then I'm going to turn it over with my flaps still folded, and I'm going to put the edge of that up to 1.5 and punch. If you don't have one of these, I don't mean to enable you, but a good trimmer, a scoreboard, and this, I love it. I've had this, I must have had this going on 15 years easy. Okay, I think I paid, I don't know, 15 or 18 pound for it, and I use it all the time. So now I'm going to undo those flaps so that I've got a nice flat surface, and I'm going to put this in my trimmer. I'm going to line it up the best I can. I'm going to move my trimming blade up to there, and I'm going to cut in between those two marks. Now, sometimes it's difficult to get it perfect, and you'll have like little spiky bits. Just go with your scissors and very, very gently just trim them off. Okay, it's hard to get it absolutely perfect, especially if you've got, you know, wonky eyes like me. Okay, and then I'll show you how to map that with paper at a later date. So I'm going to go and I'm going to just burnish it, all of that again, so that it's nice and flat. And then we're going to put this in here. Now you might think, well, that's a bit boring, Amanda. I thought we were doing awesome interactive stuff. We're going to do. Don't worry. Okay? This is something that's really cool is going to go in here. Well, not really cool. It's not like, you know, a supercar or anything. But we're going to put a nice insert in it. Okay? And then we're going to decorate the pocket pretty. So we're keeping the front and the back covers not overly done with flips and tucks and goodness knows what, because we're going to do that on these bits. Okay, so we're starting off simple. So now I'm going to get this, and I've cut it ever so slightly smaller, so I'm going to need to centralise it. Okay, and whatever gap I've got either side, I like to make sure I've got the same gap at the bottom. Don't leave so much of a gap at the bottom that you feel like you're going to need to start layering it with patterned paper. You really don't want that, as it's going to look a little bit odd. Okay, just try and make sure it's straight. And now that's on there nicely. It's not in the gusset, so it's not in the way of that closing, and it's not going to be in the way of this. It's nice and straight with this edge, and it's straight with that edge. Right, so that's that bit done. And then on the back, I'm quite fancying a bit of an envelope to put things in. So I'm going to grab my bits together, and then I'll show you how we're going to make it. Okie dokie, so we're on with the next part. Okay. So Again, we're doing a pocket, so you decide how deep you want your pocket. It's going to be an envelope pocket, and it's going to be a bit more funky than just a pocket, don't worry. So you decide how big you want it, okay? On your page, I have gone with 8 1/4, so that it's just smaller than my bit cover. Okay, you need to add 1/2 inch on each side to fold under and glue, and 1/2 inch on this side. Okay, so this piece, if you are making a journal the same size as mine with the covers at 8 1/2 inches, this piece measures 9 1/4 by 5. Okay, if you want to write that down, 9 1/4 by 5. Then I've got a second piece which we're going to turn into a flap of some sort, and this measures 8 1/4 by 4 1/2, and we're just going to score it on one side there. Okay, so I'll do the scoring with you. So let me give you that again. We've got 9 1/4 by 5. Okay, grab my scoreboard. I've only got a small craft room, so I'm sorry if I have to move about and reach and get things. I don't have a big desk that holds everything. I am sorry. It looks disorganised, but it's just because I don't have room for everything on my desk. So 9 1/4 inch along the top, we're scoring at 1/2 inch. Okay, oops, I don't want to stay straight. 1/2 inch. And we're going to turn it all the way around, and we're doing 1/2 inch on the other side. Then we're going to turn it on with the 5 inch section at the top. Okay, and we're going to score at 1/2 inch. If when you're scoring you find that your tool's slipping, okay, and even when you're holding this firmly, it's kind of like going offline, add some grease to your ball tool. Rub it on the back of your hand, or I know it sounds gross, but in your scalp. And what it just does is it adds a little bit of oil to your ball tool, and it will make it glide along the cardstock easier. Just a little tip. And then on this second piece, which is 8 1/4 by 4 1/2, we're going to put it, and along the 4 1/2 inch side, we're scoring just on one side at 1/2 inch. Okay. Let me just put my thing down. Right, so this piece we're dealing with first. So I'm going to add my tape before I miter, so that I've got edge to edge coverage. Again, tape closest to the cut edge. Okay. Grab my card, and here, right up to the edge. Make sure you've got tape right up to the edges, okay, or else it won't stay down. Okay, so that's that. And then on this one we're going to put tape here, so we're putting tape on the same side that we've scored on, not on the back. Oops, that's not on very straight. Rightio, so I'm going to fold and burnish that bit, and I'm just going to miter those corners. So I'm just going to open it out, and I'm just going to cut at an angle, okay, and cut at an angle there. And then with this one, we're going to turn it over, and where the score lines intersect, we're going to cut right across the middle at an angle. Okay, then we're going to fold and burnish, and then I'm going to come up with a way of making this more interesting. Okie doke. So one other thing you need to check when you're making pockets or anything where you've got flaps that are next to each other like this, turn it over, and where these two corners meet, make sure they don't overlap. Okay, I'm getting better at it. If they overlap, unfold it and just take a little bit more off, okay? But don't go over this score line, because if these are overlapping, you're creating bulk, and this will not lay down flat on your page when you come to stick it down. All right? Right, so I don't know why I'm doing that, because we're going to open it. So I'm going to turn this on the back where you can't see your tape, where you've got your bumpy score lines. And I am going to measure, what am I going to do? Well, let me think. Am I doing 1, 2, 3, 4? Am I doing 1/2 inch? Or do I want to do, yeah, we're going to, from the cut edge in, okay, with the flaps open, we're going to draw a line at 1 inch, okay, so 1 inch, all right, and then we're going to go along the bottom and we're going to go 1 inch. You're not going to see any of these lines, so don't worry. And then we're going to go to the other side, the other short side, 1 inch. Okay, now are we going to have that open? Let me think. I think I'm going to have it as like an open pocket. So normally what we'd do is we would then come here and we'd do a 1/2 inch from the edge. These are 1 inch, because once we've folded that, you've got 1/2 inch. Then we'd do 1/2 inch there. But I think I'm going to cut out the whole entire thing and have a full clear window. Am I? Is it going to be sturdy enough? Let's do it. Let's do it. So you can totally use a craft knife to do this. I am not a fan of using a craft knife. I'll tell you why. I can't cut straight with them. Okay, so I will use my scissors. It's not a difficult cut. I'm confident that I can get it fairly straight. If you want to use a craft knife and a cutting mat, you absolutely can. Okay, but it's just straight lines, so it's not difficult. I haven't found a craft knife that feels comfortable in my hand. That's the problem. Okay, just cut that off. I've got a little bit of a fuddy bit. Right, so then we're going to layer that with acetate. Now, I've actually started using transparency sheets. So this is like what you write on and you do overhead projectors, like when you're at school. It's a little bit thinner than acetate. So it's lighter. So you're not adding as much weight and as much bulk in whatever you're making, basically. So I'm going to give you the measurement that your acetate needs to be. So grab your pen and your pencil, because hopefully you've been writing the measurements down. Here's my ruler. So I'm going to measure between this score line and this score line, and then I'm going to measure from the top down to that score line. So the inside of this pocket measures about 8 1/8. So I'm going to cut my acetate. I want 3/8 of an inch each side. 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to cut it to 7 and... Let's have a look. 7 7/8. Okay. Turn that around. 7 7/8 on the width. Okay. So 7 7/8. Okay, dokily, save that because you can use it for something else. And then on the height, it should be, I believe, 4 1/2. Right, so the inside pocket is 4 1/2, isn't it? Yeah. So we want to go right up to the top, but we want 3/8 of an inch. Do 4 1/4. 4 1/4. Let me just check that. Let me just double check that. 4 1/4. Yeah, because we only need to stick it there. 4 1/4. Okay, so 5 7/8 by 4 1/4. Hopefully I've cut that right. No, 7 7/8 it was, I beg your pardon. Wasn't it? 7 7/8 by 4 1/4. Yep, that's just about right. Yep, Okay. So when I'm cutting that, I'm always bearing in mind that I want to put tape on here. So I need it to measure it enough to fit on here, but I also don't want to see the tape. Once it's glued down, I don't want to see tape hanging out here on the acetate. Okay, so I use very skinny tape, 1/4 inch tape. So I know that I need just over 1/4 inch. Can't even see that. I can't see it. So I'm just going to put tape down 2 short sides and 1 long side. Okay, and I'm using red line tape because it's super strong. I do use Scorpal tape, but I don't have it in loads of different widths because it's super expensive. This you can get a little bit cheaper, but red line tape is really is quite strong. Okay, again, put it on a bit at a time, because especially with window sheet or acetate, if you pull your tape tight, then you'll end up puckering the window sheet. Okay. I've not quite worked out whether the transparency sheet is cheaper than acetate, but what it is it's more versatile because you can print on it as well and make yourself clear embellishments. So I'm not saying it's cheaper, but it's not, you've got more use. You can't really print on the craft style acetate. It's too thick to go through printers. Okay. Right, I need my pokey tool. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to remove the tape just from the bottom. Okay. Fireworks are still going off even though it's not firework night, so I'm sorry if you hear my dog complaining in the background or any banging. It's fireworks, we're not being bombed. Right, so I'm lining the window sheet or the transparency sheet with the very top edge of there. Okay, making sure it's lined up and then pressing on just the bottom. Okay, now I can go in and I can remove the tape from the side parts. You can absolutely use glue, but I always end up getting it all over. And glue on the window sheet or acetate is not a good look, is it? So it's just easier to use tape, but you need a good quality tape or a strong red line tape. So that's now given us a nice little window. Okay. And we can add that to our project. So I'm just going to re-burnish. My desk is getting in a hot mess, so I don't know where anything is. So bear with me. Bear with me. And don't forget, I'm going to be showing you how to decorate these, how to layer them with paper, and we're going to decorate them as well, which is going to add 90% of a project is in the decoration, and I'm going to do that with you. Okay, when we do the other parts, I'm going to do the paper, you know, showing you where to put the paper. I'm going to show you everything, all right, so don't worry. Okay, so this needs to be centralized because we've cut it smaller than the book, and it wants to be a hair width away from the gusset. You don't want it in the gusset. Okay, and if you get one side straight, the other side generally follows. Okay, all right, I'm happy with that. Don't know if I could have done with it a bit bigger, because I've got a bit of a gap there now, and I don't know if that's bothering me. I can live with it. You might want to cut yours a little bit longer. So what did I do mine to? 8 1/4. 8 1/2's the full size. Yeah, no, I don't want it any bigger than that. I don't. Okay, so the flap is going to go on here, obviously, and close over the envelope. But we want to do something. We want to do something, okay? So And we're going to have a magnetic closure, okay? But I will do the magnetic closure when we do the paper layering. So bear with me. We can't do everything in one video or I'll be here all night. I've already done the mitering. So how can we make this look more interesting? Let me have a think. Let me have a think. And this is what I do. I'll layer it on there and I'll have a think. Right, an angled pocket would be nice. Okay. So if I have that there, where does the start of the doofer? The pocket. Because I don't want to start cutting up here and going in a slant. Otherwise, it's not going to cover the rest of the pocket. So I'll hold it like so, and I'll give myself a rough idea of where my pocket starts. So my pocket starts here. I'm just going to come a bit lower than that, just to make sure I do not cut under where I need to be. Okay, so about there. So that's just giving me an idea of the boundaries of where I need to shape this pocket, right? So let me have a think what we're doing. You will find that quite often I make things up as I'm going along, okay? So I'm quite fancying. Okay, let's have a think. So what's that? 2. Okay, so if we go down to 2 inches. All right, that's 2 inches. If we go on here 2 inches. And then we join that up. And then we go there. Will that make an interesting shape? Let me have a look. It's quite interesting. It's something a bit different, isn't it? We're going to do that. Okay, so I'll give you the measurements of the pencil marks. So what I've done is, from the folded edge, I've marked down 2 inches. Okay, and I've made a mark. Then on the left hand side of the flap, on the bottom, I've gone in the same 2 inches, made a mark. Then I've joined that up, and then where I've gone down 2 inches there, I've joined it, and we've just got kind of like, it looks like, you know, like an evening bag offset kind of a vibe. Okay, and we're just going to cut it. And hopefully it's gonna look great. So we've got this cute angled pocket going on. I'm just going to use my rubber to get rid of those pencil marks. Okay, that's going to go on there like so. See how cute is that going to look? It's something a bit different, isn't it? And then we will add some sort of magnet or closure here when we do the paper decorating. Okay, so all I need to do now is give that a really good burnish, remove my tape, and I'm going to add this now. It really does need to line up nicely. Otherwise, it's going to look absolute garbage. Okay, so line it up flush with the edge of the page, edge of the book there, and make sure these sides are lined up with the edge of the rest of the envelope, and then press. Okay, so that's going to look cool. We can either decorate it that way. I'll probably be tempted to be having my paper, you know, facing that way rather than that way. Okay, but we'll see. We will see. So that's those elements done for now, and I've told you about all the rest of the things. We've set the eyelets. I will tell you that I did repair my paper where I had ripped it, you know, and I was losing my mind. You cannot even tell. I painstakingly cut a sliver of paper and matched these little lines up on the plaid there and covered it over. So there's always a way to do everything, so don't ever get frustrated if you make a mistake. Okay, just go away, have a think, and you'll always come up with an idea of how to fix it. Nobody's ever going to know now. Okay, so yeah, that is today's tutorial. Now I will be back on, what day are we on? Saturday tomorrow. I'm not going to be doing any more tutorials on this until Sunday, So Saturday you can have a day off and you can watch the videos through and get up to this stage. Okay. We will not be adding anything else here. You can totally add patterned paper there. Okay. What I would say here is you can decorate the back and you can decorate the frame. Don't decorate this yet and don't do anything to this, because we are going to be adding either some sort of closure or magnets. Okay. So yeah, don't jump ahead too far. All right. And if you want to put your signatures in to see what they look like so far, all you need to do is open them at the centre page, slide them in here, okay, and that's what it's going to look like. It's going to be fabulous. Okay, you can start decorating your pages. All right, and we'll do this section on Sunday. Thanks for watching, take care, and I'll see you soon. Bye for now.